On the outside, it may on the inside. Must you let me get you go? Oh, sophisticated, you know I love you. Somebody check.
I'm going to stop right there. Good evening. It's Friday night. You know what this is. Friday Night Live with Dr. Kim, and I'm Dr. Kim. I'm back here with you on another Friday to talk about relationship stuff. The good, the bad, the ugly. How do we get the love that we need? Get the love that we want and keep the love that we need. That's my business here as your relationship renovator. And so come on in here. Grab a drink, click the link, invite some friends. Tonight we're talking about childhood stuff, not necessarily childhood trauma. It's so many words that's overused on the internet. So I don't want to focus on the negatives of childhood, just to develop an awareness that we are the sum of our parts, right? So who we are, how we show up every day at work, in relationships, in friendships, is a result of how we were raised, right? So all of the elements of your childhood show up either in a positive or a negative in your relationships. And so we're going to look at 5 big key factors that either navigate your relationship into one that's sustainable, that brings joy, that brings fulfillment, or one that's constantly full of trauma. Oh, there's that word. Or turmoil. Turmoil is the word that I was reaching for. You all excuse me as I'm changing hats here. A couple of things going on in this studio. Some of these things don't belong. So tonight I'm going simple. If you're joining me, you know I like to have libation on Friday. And so tonight is spiked. Simply Spiked lemonade. One day I'm gonna get some endorsements since I keep shouting out these brands. So if you're gonna join me, pour something, even if it's some water, stay hydrated. It's 90 still. Even at this time of the evening, it's 90 here in the Chicagoland area. So hydration is of the utmost importance. That was Let Me Into Your World, by the way. Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Teddy Pendergrass on lead. If you don't learn anything else tuning in on Friday night, you're going to learn some Dusties. You're going to learn something about old school music, hanging out with Dr. Kim, because that's how I roll. It's a big deal here in the Chi. Everybody knows something about the Dusty. So I titled this episode, Childhood Issues in Grown Folks' Relationships, because kid stuff can really weigh you down. It can. It absolutely can. Quick PSA before I dive in. Tonight, the plan was to be with the Toomers, right? Greg and Michelle Toomer. And so if they watch this, hey, y'all, all the way in Atlanta. And so being the real estate moguls that they are, they had a bunch of deals coming to close today. And they were like, they just could not join me or promised that they could be here in the 7 o'clock hour. So we rescheduled for next Friday. So we're extending the season one more time, just one more week. And then we're going to take the summer off and come back in September with new guests, new subjects, and all of that. Okay. So they're still coming as promised. We'll talk to them next week about how to keep that magic, how to keep that fire. Okay. So once again, what did I say? Not just getting the love you want, but we want to keep it and we want it to be good. I see some people in the chat say hi to me, so I know who's here. Use your manners and say good evening, so I know who's here. So a couple of things, wait a minute, housekeeping, right? So here's the rumors on the street. These are the things I've been hearing about Friday Night Live with Dr. Kim. First of all, isn't that cool to be hearing anything about your stuff? So as I'm out taking care of the business, right? And my other businesses on top of that, and I'm meeting people and like, oh yeah, I watched your podcast. I was like, thanks, I'm glad to know that. And like I shared with you before, I know a few couples who actually watch as part of their date night. So if you're watching tonight as part of your date night, hey. But one thing that's come up, I wanted to dispel these myths. Friday Night Live with Dr. Kim is not just for singles. Friday Night Live with Dr. Kim is not just for the ladies. That's why I'm on YouTube. Everybody watches YouTube, right? It's not just for ladies. Even though some of the topics may lean more for the feminine species over the masculine species, but I'm equal opportunity love doctor. So I'm talking about things that concern married, single, divorced, widowed, undecided, meaning you even know if you want to be booed up or not. I'm here to service everyone. What I'm hoping to, here's the other thing that came up about advice. They were like, well, you know, these people out here giving advice. I don't give advice. I listen. So for those of you who I've coached, or if you're thinking about coming in and doing some life coaching with me, relationship coaching with me, I don't give advice. What I do is I listen, I give you back your words, and I help you coach, right? I coach you into making some decisions about your life. But you will not hear Dr. Kim on this platform or one-on-one tell you, well, that's what you got to do. Well, if I was you, this is what I would do. It's not going to happen. And so this podcast, as it is called, is to make you think. I want us to be, when I say us, the collective, I want us to be mindful and thoughtful about everything we do in our lives. So in terms of your relationships, I want you to think, if this is going well, why is this going well? Not to overthink, but so you can be intentional about it continuing to go well. Does that make sense? And if it's not going well, just sit there and pack it first by yourself. And then hopefully with your partner, if you have someone who's into conflict resolution and wanting to make things better, sit down with your partner and say, hey, this is what I see going on. How do you feel about this? What can we do about this together? So it's never advice, but I'm hoping that those that follow me or follow this podcast become deep thinkers. Become deep thinkers. Always be willing to step outside of yourself and say, hey, what am I doing to contribute to either the rise or fall of my success, whether that's in business, in relationships, etc. Because we bring our personalities into business relationships too. That's why I'm saying when you listen from week to week, if you're like, I ain't trying to be booed on, I don't want no man, I don't want no woman. You could listen to a lot of what I talk about and put it right into your business, put it right into your professional life. Wow. So tonight, think about that. How you function or how were you raised show up in your professional life? How do you get along with others based on how you grew up? Think about it as I go through the 5. So we're all on the same page now. This is not an advice forum. This is not for singles. This is not, it's not even a Christian format. I'm a Christian, but this is not a Christian format. So hear me talk about Jesus because we're on a first name basis. Okay, I got to stay true to myself. That is not the goal, the overarching goal of this assembly. How does that sound? Okay, so I want you to be self-aware. You all still have not said hello to me in the chat. Say hello so I know who's here. Okay, so these are the things. The way we are raised can either help or be a hindrance to our relationships, especially when we're talking about choosing someone old school back in the day when we had arranged marriages. And even now, when you look at shows like Married at First Sight, where some of the questions that they ask are about trying to find out, do you have some of these things I'm going to talk about? Like, what is most important to you in terms of your values, which I'm going to talk about, how you view money, how you communicate, how do you handle your emotions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Those are a lot of the questions that they ask you on Married at First Sight, as well as websites like, or dating websites like eHarmony, where they're really trying to get below the surface, beyond who you're attracted to. Who are you as a person? Because that's how you're going to align with. Okay. All right. You see, if you can hear from the dings, apparently my family doesn't know what I do on a Friday night at 7 o'clock, apparently. They're texting me, what's up, cousin Jackie? There's my note taker. Yay, she finally got in the chat. Woo, I know a lot of people have been having problems getting in the chat. And my suggestion was, well, make sure you're logged in, because I know you can't chat unless you're logged in. Beyond that, I'm really not sure, but I'm so glad to see you there. So these things I want you to consider, because this is the glue. This is not only what helps you. Hey, Auntie, good evening. These are things from our childhood that not only help us keep the right person, but find the right person in the first place. We're not aware of these things. So the first one, the big one, and kind of all of the rest of this kind of filters through that, is your core values and your lifestyles. So how do you view the world around you? Every family, whether that's humans, I'll say, as well as the animal kingdom, have values, how they view the world, right? How does the world work? How do we face difficult times? Every family has a way of dealing with that. So those of you who know that I'm still mourning the loss of my best friend, I've made it now through one whole day without crying. That's progress. But in speaking about that, people handle grief differently in families. And we're taught this is the way you handle the death of someone. Either you're expected to cry or to not cry in private or cry openly. How do we deal with personal trauma? And we know in the Black community, this is paramount. You're taught very early on in most households, you don't talk about what happens in this house out in the streets. What happens in the house stays in the house. That was long before we started talking about Vegas. Okay, so that's a core value. Do we hold the things that bother us inside? Or do we share? Do we share out? Okay. Thank you, cousin Jackie. Appreciate you. It'll be 2 months. It'll be 2 months on Monday. 2 months on Monday since Shirley left me. So our core values, what does it mean to show respect? These are core values. You have some families that we were taught people have to earn your respect. And A lot of us were taught anyone older than you, you were to respect them. And what does that respect look like? It could be looking someone in the eye when they're talking to you. It could be taking turns when people are talking. It could be being totally silent, which a lot of people were taught, which translates in their communication styles being is for them to emote or express themselves because they were taught certain situations. You're quiet. You be quiet. Speak when you're spoken to. Does that sound familiar? And so all of these things that we were taught either directly or indirectly have shaped who we are and how we see the world around us. What about honesty? Honesty is a big one. Some people feel that honesty is about being brutally truthful. I tell you exactly how I feel, exactly how it comes out, and you just need to accept it. I'm just being honest. And then some people have other ways of being honest and say, wow, I need to tell this person in a timely fashion how I feel, but I'm going to choose my words carefully because I don't want the truth to hurt them. And there's just as many people say, what? The truth hurts. So it doesn't matter how you say it. If I tell you the truth, it's going to be uncomfortable. So through all those shenanigans, I'm going to just give it to you straight from the hip. So what does it mean to be honest? What does it mean to be responsible? And this is going to come up again when we talk about what does it mean to be responsible? Uh-oh, I got a smudge and nobody told me. See, that's why you use lip liner. That's why I need somebody to do my makeup. That's okay. One day I'm going to be, one day I'm going to be big time and I'm going to have a makeup person. You heard it here first. One day I'm going to have some on my face. I have to run and do my face before I jump on here. Anyway, so core values. Do I see the world as half empty or half full when we talk about that glass? And you've seen it. Have you met some families? You meet the family, everybody's just sun and bubble gum and rainbows. You just meet them, everybody smiles. How are you? It's so wonderful to meet you. Come on in. Have some chicken. You want some potato salad? And of course, depending on how you've been raised, you're probably going to say no to the potato salad because we don't eat everybody's potato salad. That's the core value. And collard greens too. Thank you, Cousin Jackie. I sure try so I don't scare you all on a Friday night. I try to keep it together. So responsible work ethic. What is your work ethic? This becomes a bone of contention in a lot of relationships. I'm still talking about core values. Still talking about core values. Are you a hard worker? And if so, what does that look like to you to work hard? What did you see in your family? Did you see a mother and a father that both worked outside the home? Did you see a mother that worked from sun up to sundown? Like we talked about the Proverbs 31 woman. She was up before everybody in the house, getting things together so everybody could function, whether she worked outside the home or not. Is that definition of hard work in your family? A father who, again, got up before everybody else. He came home late, or everybody waited until he got home to eat supper. Supper or dinner, whatever it is you call what you ate in the evening. What's the work ethic? Or were you raised in an entrepreneurial household where the message was, again, directly or indirectly taught, we work for ourselves, and everybody in the family is expected to contribute to the work of the family. So you may have learned as a young person that, hey, when I get up, whether I'm shorty or the in-between or the oldest child, I have a role to play in the family business. So it's a collective. It's a collective. We're all responsible for the financial well-being of this family. So whatever you've learned in childhood, it's going to do one of two things. It's either going to shape how you act, or it's going to shape how you move from repeating those behaviors. And following through on your education and values. So what do I mean? Some people are like, yep, I absolutely want to recreate my family of origin, as it's called in sociology. I want a family just like I was raised. I think I was raised with a strong work ethic and how people are supposed to be responsible. I'm going to do that with my family. And then there's the other camp who says, this is how I was raised. And I would never raise kids like that. So just like the example I just gave you, some people may feel like kids need to be kids. Why are kids working? That's why there's child labor laws. Some people feel like maybe that was too much for them. So I don't want my kids to work until they're adults. And then there's the third camp, which I would like to believe I tried to be in, but my kids may beg to differ. And that is, I want to take parts of the values that I was raised with and maybe tweak how they're delivered. So what do I mean by that? I wanted my kids to be responsible, but not to a fault. I wanted them to also feel comfortable with saying no. Like, or can I do that later? Not, I'm going to shame you if you don't do it, right? Or you're lazy if you want to do something later. Just being a human. But I did want them to learn how to be responsible, how to be responsible. Yes, you should contribute. Yes, you should look around and see what else it is that you can do for the good of everyone. Core values. We're still talking about what it is you believe. A lot of what we believe about the world around us was directly taught through faith-based traditions. So for those of you who were raised in church or sent to church, because there are some people, families didn't go, but they made sure the kids went. Why? It probably was different than how they were raised. So they weren't comfortable maybe with going themselves, but they knew maybe, what's up, Ben? Okay, so we got Florida in here. We got Virginia in here. All right, we're looking good. We're looking good. Good to see you. So that previous generation may have determined, wow, I don't know about this church thing for me, but I saw that people around me or external family members who did go to church fared well. So I want my kids to go to church, but I'm not so sure if I want to do the church thing. So they send the kids to church. Okay. And so through that church, through the religious experience, a lot of these values are cultivated. What right and wrong looks like, what respect looks like, what honesty looks like, some of the things we've already talked about. Education. Is education important? It plays a different role in different families. Certain families, absolutely, education is your job in this house. It is expected that you will go to school at these varying levels, and not until you reach those varying levels are you done with their education. In other families, it's left up to the kids. And we look at what gifts and talents they have, which I think is probably the most wise way to look at it. Everyone is not suited, well, I'll say at least for higher education. We know legally you must have children in grammar school. So don't go back to your local school and say, Dr. Kim said, I don't want my kids to go to school. They don't have to go to school. But we do have the choice of what? We could homeschool them or send them to the local school. You may have a child that has a disposition that maybe it isn't well suited for the school setting. Decide, let's school my kids at home if you have the luxury to do that, or you're willing to make the sacrifice to do that. Okay. So education, and I liken it to education and or learning a trade is still education. So it's whether or not, which part of your body are you going to use to cultivate an income to take care of yourself and your family? Using your head, your hands, legs, arms, both, all. But every family holds a around that. Some people are like, education, it's about doing. I know a lot of people that believe those that can't teach. I hate that, of course. Me being a teacher, right? But there's strong examples of why people say that. But there's a lot of people who are like, education, please. There's a lot of people who go to school and they're dumb as bricks. It's true. It's true. So again, what does our family say? What about being on time? That's another one that becomes a rub in relationships. And it really is around the values of that family. Let me take a moment with this one. Have you been, oh my God, this used to be an issue. I'm not even going to say with who, but you all already know. Tell me in the chat if you know who I'm talking about. And if you followed me for any length of time, you know exactly which relationship I'm talking about, but I'm not going to give you a cheat. But this was one that I had to learn with his family was time. Time meant nothing to this man's family. A time was a suggestion. So if there was anything happening at 3 o'clock, that meant you probably need to start maybe thinking about going in that direction around 3 o'clock. You're probably going to start calling around 3 o'clock to see what they want you to bring. Or you're going to start calling at 3 o'clock and say, so who's coming? So you can decide whether you're coming or what time you're going to come. So in his family, time was a suggestion. It was a frame of reference. In my family of origin, not my family of procreation, meaning the family that I made, that I created, but the family I was born into, time is of a critical mass. When we say 3 o'clock, or when my parents and their generation said 3 o'clock, that meant 2:45. So you need to be there and then ready to begin at the time that was given to you. Failure to do so showed disrespect, because I told you what time to be here. So you can see how there's a rub if you get in a relationship with someone who they were taught time is fluid. We get there when we get, as long as we get there and we're good, right? Versus someone who says timeliness, not cleanliness, but timeliness is next to godliness. Then they feel disrespected when you're not on time. They feel unheard. They don't feel like they're a priority. Isn't it something as simple as time can send all of those messages to the party, and to the party who feels that time is fluid can feel like you're being so rigid, so serious, so mean, so bossy. You're constricting my movement. They don't feel free. Oh, these core values, you can see how that plays out in work too, right? For meetings, oh my God, I've had that happen meeting time. I had a boss where one-on-one, he like, folks are late. And there was a lot of people like, isn't there a grace period like between 1 o'clock and 1:15? I'm here. Okay. So time. And the last one in core values that I want you to consider that becomes very important in a relationship is, what does love look like? What does love look like? How were you taught as a child represents love? It kind of takes us to thinking about the love languages, right? How do we express love to each other? And you see this come up again in a lot of the dating shows and relationship shows. You'll have one person who was like, we said, I love you every day. You wake up in the morning, good morning, I love you. Before you leave the house, I love you, see you later. And you have other families who hug to express love. So they're constantly hugging each other, high-fiving, smacking each other in the head. touching is a very important tool for expressing love. And then yet another family who may not verbalize it or demonstrate it through touch, but they may do it through what acts of service, right? So I take care of you through providing a service, particularly ones that you don't have to ask for. So whether it's picking up something for you, getting something from the store, which could be considered a gift, but they take care of each other and show love through doing. So if we think that's love, that's the way everybody shows love. Understand how you can get in a relationship with someone who has experienced love differently in their family, and they'll think that you don't love them. When we get into communication, it shows up the same. And have you experienced this? Talk to me in the chat. Have you experienced this? And Ben, I think we touched on this before, where you'll be in a relationship, and if you don't argue with that person, they're like, well, you must not care because you're not even willing to fight for me. You're not willing to fight for this relationship. No, I am not going to argue with you. This is Kim. This is Dr. Kim talking about Dr. Kim. I am not going to argue with you over whether or not we're going to this car wash or that car wash. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to argue with you over whose house we're going to go over first for New Year's. I'm not going to argue with you. Okay. Now, whether or not, I'm trying to think of a topic that's hard enough for me to want to argue. I'm just not an arguer. I'm a debater. I'll debate with you. I'll get into a serious conversation, but I'm not going to argue with you, like elevate my voice and all of that. I'm just not. But I know some people that take that to mean you don't care. And then you have some people who, if you came from a quiet house, they think that's primitive. You sit there just argue and scream and holler and cuss. What are you doing? And so, right? Not understanding too, like I've talked about before, why was the house quiet? So just like for a long time, I was like, my parents didn't argue. And then you grow up and you realize they had to have argued at some point. We just didn't see it. But I went into my first marriage believing my parents didn't argue, so we're not going to argue. And so it's not a matter of not arguing, it's a matter of how do you fight fair. And that's something that a lot of us need to learn. Yeah, it's a little late in the game, but I felt like that my whole life, Jackie. I'm just not going to do it. Not going to argue. Not going to argue. Not going to do it. Can't do it. Won't do it. So, those core values, how you view the world. So related to that, another big childhood issue is money. How did your family feel about money? Talk to me. How did your family feel about money? So was your family kind of family where you all spent money liberally? It was just like, if you wanted something, they just put the money in your hand and they just bought it. Was your family the kind of family where Friday night, as I remember used to say in the 40s, the eagle flew, which meant we got paid. You think about Johnny Kemp just got paid. It's Friday night. You remember that from the 80s? So was your family one of those kind of families where it was like, oh, it's Friday, so we getting some fish. We're going to get a bag of shrimp. The grown people, maybe they get something in a brown bag. The kids got candy or something. And you're like, whoa, we're going to kick it hard because it's Friday. And you just spared no expense. Or was your family the kind of family that we save for a rainy day? And maybe we buy big for Christmas, or we buy big for birthdays, or we don't buy big at all because there's a one day that we might need this money. So how did your family deal with money? That strongly affects how you see, view, and handle money when you're grown. And so I've seen a lot of people, because if their family handled money very tight, Then when they got older, they decided, you know what? I'm gonna get what I want. Because I wasn't allowed to get nothing. So I'm going out here and I'm gonna be happy. I'm working too hard not to treat myself. And so they spend. A lot of people feel like you can't take it with you. The money is here to serve me while I'm here. So I'm gonna enjoy myself. If I save something, yay. If I don't, I figure it out when that time comes. So money, can you see how that can affect a relationship? If you're not even aware of how you deal with money or why. When me and my ex got divorced, my daughter was like, I don't understand because y'all argue. Same here. It's like, they seem like they're the best of friends. How did that happen? And especially, again, about money. So typically in any relationship, there's a spender and a saver. But thinking about your childhood and why you are the way you are is a big one. So if you're a spender, why? What's the root of you being an extravagant spender? I'm not talking about somebody who says, hey, this is something I want to get, I'm going to get it. I'm talking about the extremes where it's like money just flows through your hand like water. Why are you so extreme about your spending? And likewise, on the flip side, why are you so tight-fisted about saving? Were you without as a youngster? Did you experience moments of food insecurity or maybe even housing insecurity? And so you want to ensure that you never experience that, your children never experience that. So maybe you're a lot more stringent about money because you've been without. And so you hold on to money like this, and it's very hard for you to give or to spend or whatever. Those are things we want to be mindful of so we know how to move, bob, and weave and compromise, because every relationship requires compromise. I don't care how you cut it. So whether you end up having to give a little or pull back a little, you still got to go back to the root of why you do what you do. Is it what you were taught? Or is it your response to what you were taught? Are you trying to do something different? My dad was great at managing money, but my mom gave all hers away. And that's so typical. Usually, I'm telling you, you usually don't see two spenders get together or two savers. Usually it's a combination of the two. Do you see money as a resource or a tool to contribute to your life? Like for some people, money is their identity. That's deep. Some people think that that describes who you are, and it should dictate how you treat others. So those with money, we hold in high esteem. And if I have lots of money, you should hold me in high esteem, and I should be treated a certain way. I should be respected a certain way. And those who don't have certain amounts of money should be treated differently, maybe without as much respect through our words, through maybe what they're included in. Isn't that something? So children are taught that. I want you to sit tonight, tomorrow, whenever you're quiet, and think, what was I taught about money? Not just how to spend it, how to save, but what was I taught about its role in our lives? Is it a means to an end? I know some people who feel like money is a tool just like a screwdriver or a hammer. It just enables me to do what it is I want to do. So it's neither here nor there. It's not something I hold on to. It's not something that I give away. It's just something that I use for my day-to-day life. Oh, you need some here. Do I need to put some over there? Yes. Isn't that interesting? So how we view money, the role that it plays in our lives, brings a lot of either discord or harmony to a relationship. Think about what I've told you previously. What is the biggest issue in marriage beyond infidelity? It's money issues. Somebody has either compromised the security of this family by not contributing or squandering the wealth that we built, or once a huge loss happens, somebody breaks camp. Why? Some of that has to do with identity. If we got together and we're able, and when one person is like, wow, we get together, we're going to be able to build something that I never experienced as a kid, or nobody in my family has been able to own a home or be independent from the family, to travel, whatever that looks like, identity. And we were able to achieve that. And now through the loss of income or through bad investments or whatever, or the turn of the stock market as we all experienced in '08, and we're experiencing a recession now, they're like, I can do bad by myself. Or I never thought I would be here. Oh God, I'm back to having a Buick. I had to give my Tesla, or whatever your issue is, and they're gone. Because money and wealth is an identity, whether it's aspired identity, or maybe it was one that that shaped their family. And so they were taught, you only hang with the do-wells, the do-goods, can't hang with the ne'er-do-wells. And so, yeah, whatever I got to do to keep that status is what I'm going to do. And if this marriage isn't keeping me there, I got to go. Let me see, I see some things in the chat here. It's sad. It says, so money, you got to think about how you were raised. So as you're meeting people, or even the relationships you're in now, maybe you can get to the root of why you have so many differences about money, or how you can get on the same page and have a more united trajectory, right, for your finances. Huge, huge issue. People don't like talking about sex and money, but you see, those are the two that will make or break your relationship. And it shapes how you live. So again, think about it. How we entertain. Is that something that we plan, or do we do that spontaneously? So again, wow, okay. Especially now I'm seeing it with my friends, the empty nesters. Should we just, man, we want to go to Cancun. Let's go. Money is there. We out. Or do we sit in January and say, we want to take 3 trips this year? Where are we going to go? Do we need to pay for them over time? Are we going to put them all on one card and pay them as we go? What are we going to do? Do we have trip money already set aside? So entertainment. How do we live? Do we live beneath our means? So when I'm working, for example, with clients in real estate, yeah, I do that too. So I'm a realtor too. So when I'm working with clients and they get their pre-approvals for loans, and I'm like, just because I don't tell them this, but something I kind of get them to think about. If you're approved for $500,000, doesn't mean you have to use $499,999. It's just saying this is how much the bank is willing to lend you. So you have to make a decision. What does that mortgage look like if you're not paying cash? If you're paying cash, same thing. Do I want to take this cash on hand and put it on this house? Do I want to put all those eggs in that one basket? Or do I want to put a sizable down payment and finance the rest? Lifestyle. How do you see money? How do you see money? So it's so big, you can't go around it. And so in my group, we talked about that. So when do you talk about money? I think as soon as you start seeing yourself in a committed relationship with that person, you need to start talking about it. Maybe not your exact dollars and cents, like what you have coming in and what you pay going out. Maybe not your credit score, but definitely how you feel about money. What is your attitude, your financial attitude? And how do you manage what it is you have? I think if you see some hopes with that person, you want them in your life for a while, because it's going to come up even with dating. It's going to come up even with dating. So wait a minute, we're going to go out every day of the week. Are we? Is that what we're going to do? We're going to go out every day of the week? Is that too expensive for us? Or if we do, what are we doing? Who's paying for it? if he's paying for it, I'm still concerned, because if I want to build with this person, I don't want you to have a deficit in your savings because you were trying to entertain me. Because at some point, if I'm really serious about you, that's our money, right? That could influence how we live together. Thousands and thousands of dollars that we might have been able to get some bricks instead of a burger. Talk about money. So core values, how were you raised? What did your family tell you was important? 2, what was your relationship with money? How did you see money handled as a kid? And how much of that have you incorporated into your life? What about managing your emotions? Now, this is one I didn't want to talk about because this stepped all over my toes. And I'm glad we're almost out of time because this is the one that, oh my gosh, came up so many times in different relationships. How do you manage your emotions? What were you taught in your family about your emotions? Then, Jackie, I thought I saw Auntie here. I think I saw Pastor Janine pop in. What were you taught about managing your emotions? Were you taught suck it up? Big girls don't cry. Be a big boy. Stop all that crying and whining. What were you taught about managing your emotions? Or were you the person who you just sat there real quiet with your lips poked out until somebody said something to you and then you were like, nothing? Oh, come on, something's got to be wrong. Why are you looking like that? I'm just sad. What are you sad about? I don't know. A lot of stuff. And you held on to your feelings until somebody pulled it out of you. Is that what you were taught about? Managing your emotions. And when I say taught, again, we're taught directly, meaning somebody's telling you this is how you do this, or indirectly by what's allowed and what's reinforced. So if you were allowed to have those kind of temper tantrums, just sit there until somebody asks you what to do. Can you see what that looks like now? Do you do that in relationships now? Play that passive aggressive. I'm not gonna say nothing to him. I'm gonna just be quiet. You're in there washing dishes, you cooking. I'm gonna see how long it takes for him to figure out I'm not okay. That's a game. But if that's what you've been taught, that's how you do, right? Especially if you're, I don't want to argue. This kind of goes together. Then you think that's healthy. And if for you, then you're probably even more convinced that it's healthy. But you see how much confusion that causes? Not being able to use our words, which is a big catchphrase we use with kids now. Use your words. But if I've not been taught how to use my words, that could be threatening. I may feel like I'm going to hurt somebody or somebody's going to hurt me saying the wrong thing. Sharing your feelings can be seen as a weakness in a lot of families. Okay, don't nobody care about your feelings. Is everything's about your feelings? Everybody got feelings. So you may have been taught nobody cares, nobody wants to hear about your feelings. So you've learned to internalize them and deal with them yourself. What were you taught about managing your emotions? So think about how you manage your emotions now. And where did that come from? How did you get to that? Super, super, super important, because everybody is not your family. A lot of things that have worked within the context of your family is not going to work in the workplace. It's not going to work in a relationship. It's not going to work. That was one of the things Shirley and I talked about so much that was hard for us to explain to other people is the dynamic of our families. Our families could be classified as high context microsystems. Really fancy word for tight-knit, meaning that everything that happens in this family is we're dependent on each other, not codependent, but interdependent, meaning that whatever you decide to do on a given day, you've been taught to be aware that it's going to affect everybody in the household. Every decision you make is going to affect everybody in your immediate family. So you're never working in isolation. Now, our families taught that meant They didn't want us to be selfish. But what it made it difficult to do is to learn how to be an entity unto yourself. So forming a self-image and knowing what you really feel was difficult. It took a lot of work. So when I got in relationships and somebody was asking me, how did I feel? And I'm like, almost like the woman in Coming to America. Well, whatever you like. Well, what do you want? See you, what do you want? How do you feel? And you're so afraid or haven't had any practice to express your feelings because you've been taught it really, not that it doesn't matter, but it's not as important as how it's going to affect the whole family. That's deep in itself. So what were you taught about managing your emotions and then how to communicate? We got zapped and now we're back. So super important, core values. What was your relationship with money? And what were you taught about managing your emotions and communicating those emotions? Has a huge impact on relationships, huge impact on relationships. Do you lie? Were you taught that the lying was okay? White lies, as long as it's a white lie, as long as it's not a big lie, it's okay. Really? That really goes back to values, but it spills over into communication. Okay. So last two, and then I'm gonna get out your way because it is a nice Friday night in the shine. It might be great someplace, wherever it is you are. What's the weather like in Florida and Virginia? And it's Friday, so. So your views on marriage. How do you see marriage? What did you see in terms of marriage in your childhood? That is going to affect, obviously, how you marry, if you marry, when you marry. What did marriages look like in your family? What did marriages look like in your family? Did you see happy marriages? Did you see marriages that people appeared happy on the outside, but when you visited them at home, it was hell up in there? You're like, woo, I don't even know why these people are together. They don't even like each other. I know it's got to be hot there because it is hot as Hades here in the shine. So I know, stay hydrated, cuz. So what did you see? Did you see cheating? Did you see infidelity? Did you see people who had two different families? Did you see infidelity in your own family? You're like, whoa, we sure got a lot of uncles coming over here, but they only visit when daddy not here. Is that what you saw? So marriage was a game. It's just kind of something that we do. It's an arrangement. It's a business. Did you see people go through multiple marriages? You are, oh, so marriage square dancing. You just, when you get tired of one partner, you go get another one. Did you see a lot of divorce? Which may have made you think, okay, well, marriages don't last. So why even bother? Or marriages don't last. Hey, Lynette, how are you? Or marriages don't last. So when I'm done, I'm done. I just walk away. What did you see? What did you all see? What kind of marriages did you see growing up? Because it strongly dictates how we marry. Do we see, or were we taught, again, directly or indirectly, that when I'm married, that's for life. We work through anything. Like, you just don't leave, you're in there. Doesn't matter what this person does. You just, or were you taught, you get married, work through things, it may be difficult, but this right here, you should never tolerate. What did you see? That's how we show up. I promise you, that was one. And here's the thing, it's not that, and I really hope this is a big takeaway for you all tonight. It's not that this has to dictate what you have, but it dictates how you move. Because until you're aware of why you believe what you believe, you will never be able to activate what it is you really want. I'm going to say it again. That's not in my notes. Until you are fully aware of why you do what you do, you will never be able to fully activate what you want. And you know, that's my job as your relationship renovator. What do I want? I want you to get the love that you want, but I want you to be able to keep the love that you need. So if you know that you saw some crazy stuff growing up, in order for you not to replicate it, you got to understand how that rubbed off on you. If you know that you don't trust people, you saw crazy stuff going, Lord, how do I learn to trust people? Because I saw some really shady stuff. Or I saw some people really holding on to things that weren't good for them because of the pressure of the expectations around our values, what we said about marriage. So I saw my mother and my father sacrifice their happiness because expectation was you stay married. I saw my family members sacrifice their happiness because they bounced from person to person instead of realizing what their shortcomings were that maybe could have saved the relationship. Almost everyone's parents was married. See, and that's what I saw when I was growing up, everyone was married. I didn't see divorce or single parenting unless a spouse passed. So that had a strong, I'm sure that had a strong impact on how you saw marriage. So it's like, okay, when I get to a certain age, I'm supposed to be married, right? Which goes hard on women and men today who were from families like that. You get to a certain age, you should be married. Marriage isn't for everyone. It really needs to be a personal decision because it costs a lot. It costs a lot emotionally, it costs a lot financially to be married. You need to know it's what you want to do and how you want to go about doing it. And so the last piece, so Lynette, you came in a little bit late, but I was talking about the things that we need to examine from our childhood so we can show up as our best selves in our relationships. And the first one is to be aware of what our values are. So we're choosing someone with the same values, or if they've been raised differently, we can at least articulate those values and why those things are important to us. So then if we do need to pivot and compromise, we at least know the root of why we do what we do. Okay, and then we can get a standard with our partner. So I'll give you an example, and I'll tell you the other four before I go to the fifth one and close. I've seen a lot of cases where people did not have a strong family dynamic, right? For whatever reason, whether there was a death in the family or a divorce. And so they were like, wow, we were kind of all over the place, but I always wanted like this family collective, especially on the holidays, you know, I could just see us all together. And I never had that growing up. And you'll see a person like that who will want to get with someone whose family is very, has that collective orientation. They do everything together. Everybody has a role in that family. But because they didn't, that's not their lived experience, they may lack the skills in knowing how to do that. At some point, it may feel constrictive to them because they're used to making decisions autonomously, like on their own. So they like the look of that and they may like the feel of it, but they're not sure how to go about it, or it may be uncomfortable for them to go through that. So it takes that person who has the family dynamic to be able to explain and help them understand why we're going this route, or for them to come to an understanding that, you know what, for this marriage and this relationship, we're going to borrow some of that family dynamic from your family, but we also need to reserve that some things need to be between us. Isn't that a wonderful balance there? But if you're not aware, again, of why you do what you do, you're not going to be able to get what you want. And I want you to have what you want. Okay, does that make sense? So you need to be aware of your core values. You need to be aware of your relationship with money. You need to be aware of how you manage your emotions. and how you communicate. And I know I skipped one. I know I skipped one. And your views on marriage. You need to know, really, how did you picture marriage? There are so many assumptions made. People just think, well, everybody know what a good marriage looks like. No, they don't. Everybody's view of a good marriage is very different, or whether you need to get married at all. Because I have a lot of people that sit on my couch and they'll say, why even get married? I know the happiest couples I know don't have that piece of paper. So you can't assume that everybody views marriage, first of all, as the goal. And second of all, that everybody has the same lens for what a good marriage looks like. You need to know so you can have those discussions and everybody knows what they're signing up for. Makes sense? And so the last one is your attachment style. You need to think back to childhood. How did I connect caregivers? How did I connect with my parents? And I've talked about this a little bit before, but it shows up here again. So what was your relationship with your parents? Was it secure? Did you have a trusting relationship? You knew, I'm good here where I can see them. And I'm okay if my parents go away because I know they're coming back. So I'm pretty secure there. Same thing with friendships, right? So I'm good with my friends at school. I'm good with my friends on the weekend, not really worried about that. So that's what you would call a secure attachment. Yeah, I understand. Wow. Parents were 52 when your dad passed. He was 52 or they had been married 52 years. And then your divorce was devastating because you didn't see that growing up. Yeah, it was the same thing. I saw a few divorces, but that was not the norm. So for me to have gone through that, it was very devastating and embarrassing because it's like, what's wrong with you? You got people over here been married 2 lifetimes. You can't stay married. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? So I understand. So your attachment style. So did you have secure attachments where you're like, I'm good? Or did you have avoidant attachments, which means you didn't have closeness. You experienced some rejection, maybe lack of intimacy. And what do we mean about that with a caregiver relationship? Maybe in your family, secrets weren't kept. So if you told somebody something, they would embarrass you and tell everybody else. So what did it teach you? I don't need to tell anybody anything. I just keep it to myself. And I won't try to get close to anybody because when you're close to people, they'll betray you. Did you have a caregiver that left, that abandoned you? A mother, a father, even a sibling who you were close to? That will sometimes make people avoid, you know what, I just don't need to get close to people anymore because you get close to people, they leave. Do you see how this plays out? If you experience that as a kid, that's kind of, again, it really shapes your core values because that's your lived experience. And then it also affects how you into relationships. So not dealing with these can affect you even starting a relationship. Because imagine if you're like, this part, they seem nice, but people disappoint you. So why even bother? A person won't even have a chance. They won't even have a chance if that's how you function. So did you have secure attachments with your parents? Did you have avoided attachments with your parents? Did you have kind of a dismissive attachment? That means you want closeness, so you'll kind of come in, you kind of get close, and then you step back. So you kind of do this bob and weave. Have you met people like that who are hot and cold? They're like, dang, they seem like they were really into me, and now they're cold. They want to be close. They're like, I don't know. At some point, you're going to leave. So let me protect myself so I don't get hurt. Isn't that crazy? But that's how it shows up, whatever you've experienced, right? whatever it is you've experienced, that's what you believe about the world around you. It doesn't matter how someone tells you. You're like, this is what I have. This is what I know because I was there. And then the last one is anxious, like an anxious attachment. So you're overly dependent, where you're overly dependent on your parents, where that kid, I kind of call them Velcro kids. Every time you look around, you're like, oh, next to your parents because you're dependent on them for everything because you don't want to lose them. So you're like, if I hold on to your apron strings, right? If I'm always there, I follow you around. I'm with you wherever you go. I need you to help me do this. Blah, 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 blah. Do you see how that? Have you seen people like that in relationships when they're adults? And those are your codependent people. They can't make a move without you. They got to know what you're doing, where you're doing, how you're doing it. It's this group that I'm in. I can't tell you the name of the group. It's a secret group. But the ladies were in there texting because this woman had just met this guy and she took too long to answer him back, or too long for him. He had messaged her. And I guess maybe some time had passed. It wasn't even an hour. I want to say 15 or 20 minutes. And when she finally answered him, he was really taken aback. It was like, oh, so what were you doing? What were you doing? And she says, oh, she told him what she was doing. And he said, what were you doing for real? Because if you just at home with your kids, it shouldn't have taken you that long to get back to me. Whoa, red flag. A lot of times that comes from somebody who's been anxious. They don't want to let you get too far. Because the last time somebody got too far, they ended up betraying me. So I need to keep tabs on you. Initially, sometimes that shows up and it looks like they're really in love with you. You're like, wow, they call me every hour and an hour. Oh, man, she's missing me. He's missing me. You think, man, they can't get enough of me. No, they're trying to make sure you don't get away. It'll be controlling. And not so much controlling just because they want to control you. They're trying to control you so they don't get hurt. Because again, they fear being abandoned. They fear losing you. So you got to be careful. Trust your gut. Use some discernment. So there is such a thing as too much of a good thing. Trust me. Trust me when I tell you that. So think about those relationships. Did I ever feel like this big sense of longing from my parents? Did I feel this big longing for Big Mama? Or did I know when I go to school, somebody's going to be there to care for me? I don't have to worry about looking for somebody to take care of me or meet their needs. This goes even as far back as your infancy. And this is another one that I see couples fight about when bringing up babies, core values. There are some people that say, you let a baby cry. And that's normal. Babies cry. Let them cry. You're spoiling them. Don't pick them up every time they cry. And then you have another school of thought that says, yeah, a baby's cry is their only form of communication. So when they cry, I should respond to it and find out what they're telling me. Are they hungry? Are they uncomfortable and hurt? Are they wet? Or are they lonely? Sometimes they just want the closeness. And you'll see that happen with a baby. You're like, soon as I pick them up, they start crying. Soon as you lay them down, they start crying. You spoiled. No, humans were made to interact with each other. So if a baby is crying, they stop crying when you hold them. It's not spoiling them. That's teaching them to trust you. That when I express a need, you will fulfill it. Now, as they get older, we do want to teach them that they can wait a little bit longer, but I'm talking about arm babies. Still got yolk on them, and people are, you're spoiling them. They need to learn how to. No, you right then, in those first 3 months of life, are helping them form healthy attachments or toxic attachments. So when you let a baby sit there and cry and I will go on record as saying that, and you don't respond, you're setting them up for these either avoidant, dismissive, or they're avoidant, dismissive, or anxious attachments. Because you're teaching them that I can cry, I can be in distress, and no one will meet those needs. So I'm going to have to do something extreme for people to meet my needs. Do you see where this is going? So when you see people clown in relationships, it probably started there where they just needed a bottle. Maybe they just needed to be held. But the only time they got response is when they act a fool. So go back to you find yourself being clingy with people. Maybe something happened. Maybe your needs weren't met. Maybe your cries were not responded to. Now, do we stay there? Do we stay there? Hey, what's up, Dr. Liz? Good evening. I'm almost at the end, but I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it home safely. So you need to think about that. If you find yourself saying, I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop in a relationship. Were the seeds of that planted in your childhood? I'm not trying to get Freudian with you or anything. I'm simply suggesting if you see yourself in any of those descriptions I gave for attachment styles, you need to dial the clock back and see what the root of that is. Where is it coming from? And when you identify it, deal with it. Deal with it. That one in particular, out of the 5 that I mentioned, the core values, the attitudes about money, the managing emotions and communication, and the views on marriage. This one, your attachment style, is the one of those 5. It's going to require some coaching. It's going to require some therapy for you to unpack. Why do I show up the way I show up in relationships? Why do I either attach to people so quickly and can't let go? Or why is it hard for me to even warm up to people at all? Or why is it that when I warm up to people, I'm hot and cold? Because I'm scared. I'm waiting for them to disappoint me. I'm waiting for them to break my heart. Why do you function like that? And so it's hard work, but it's truly important work. To be perfectly transparent, it's the work that I'm still in the middle of. It's ongoing. It's gotten better. I've gotten a better understanding of why I show up the way I show up. But it takes some more digging, and it's uncomfortable because you have to look at not just yourself, but the people that you love. And like, man, I wonder what could have happened if they had handled me a little differently. Doesn't make them wrong, doesn't even make them bad. It is what it is. And what did I say earlier? Until you figure out why you do what you do, you're not going to be able to get what you want. I'll take that to the bank. You can cash it tomorrow. And so that's what every Friday night is about here. I want you to know why you do what you do. Yep, identify and deal. I want you to know I'm not here to give advice. I'm not here to throw any stones. I want you to know why you do what you do, why you function the way you function. Why are you getting what you're getting? Or why are you not getting what you're getting? So if things are going well, still sitting. Why? What is going on? Why is it so good? So you keep going. And if there's aspects of your life that are not going the way you want, unpack that baggage. So you could pack light, in the words of Erykah Badu, and get to going. If you're in a relationship already and you know this is something you all keep going back with, tell your partner, you know what? I think there's something I need to look at. And I'm gonna work on this. I want you to go through this with me. Or at least let them know I'm going through this. I need some patience while I figure this out, because this is going to be better for the both of us. And somebody who's going to stick with you as you go through that, boom, you hit the jackpot. That's a lifer, because some people can't. If you follow Dear Future Wifey, and then I'm going to close. If you follow Dear Future Wifey, Lateris Whitfield, he talked about that. There was a girl, they were going through premarital counseling. That's how committed he was to wanting to make sure that they did the right thing and had a successful relationship. And so in going through that, she started to discover, wow, there's some things from my childhood that have made previous relationships tough, and it's going to make this one tough too. And so she made the decision to walk away from the relationship. He was devastated, begged her to stay. He was like, I will walk through this with you. And she felt it was too much work to do with a partner. She said, nope, I need to go and be okay and heal alone. You're too good of a guy for me to put you through all of this. Now, part of me feels like, wow, what a stand-up girl. She was really concerned about the depth of her wounds. But it also tells me she probably wasn't ready for a relationship either, because we do understand that we're always evolving and growing. And so even if we're marrying at our best, there's still change is going to take place. We have to be choosing people who can go through those changes with us, who will love us unconditionally as we continue to evolve and change. As long as we have breath in our body, that's the process. So to me, that was sad. Yeah, I love him too. Yeah, that's the process. So dig into your childhood. If you want somebody to talk to, I'm your person. You know, I love talking about stuff like that and help you get to the core of some of those things so you can move forward in your relationships. You can find me on Facebook, book an appointment through the Complete Suite page, the Complete Suite LLC. You can also find me on Instagram, Dr. Kim Complete Suite, inbox me there. And I'll be glad to share my calendar and find some time for us to talk about stuff that matters to you. That's the stuff I love. Absolutely. Okay. Otherwise, I will see you here next Friday night, 7:00 Central Standard Time, with the Tumors from Atlanta, Greg and Michelle. They'll be with me next week talking about how to keep the magic in your marriage. They've been doing it for 30 some years. Yeah, 30 some years. And they are fantastic. I tell you, they're good looking. They still have fun, enjoy each other. And so I want to hear what they have to say. So when it's my turn, and I take this last turn, y'all, it's going to stick. It's going to stick. So I will look for you next week, same bad time, same bad channel. And a shout out to my unicorn angel who keeps me believing that anything and everything is possible. Good night. Love y'all to life. See you next week.